Hello everyone, this is Akash Gowde, Assistant Professor at Rajmata Jijau Shikshan Prasarak Mandals, Institute of Computer and Management Research at MBA Department. Today, I am going to discuss with you the summer internship project which is for the MBA second year third semester. I hope you all will enjoy this session. Please like, share and subscribe to my channel. Have any queries, drop me a mail. Let's start from the chapter number 1.
Summer internship project part number 2. In this part number 2 we are going to discuss from the chapter number 6 to chapter number 10. Chapter number 6 is research methodology, then chapter number 7 is data analysis and interpretation, then chapter number 8 the observations and findings, then chapter number 9 conclusion, and the chapter number 10 is suggestions and recommendations. We are going to discuss in brief one by one. See the chapter number 6, research methodology. In chapter number 6, there are some points. The first one is objectives, then types of research, sampling, data collection techniques, and analysis technique. And the last one is limitations. See, in part number 1, we already discussed about what are the objectives of your research, or we can say it is the project of the SIP, summer internship project. Now we are going to discuss from the types of research. Types of research. There are two types of research methods. The first one is qualitative and the second one is quantitative. Qualitative methods. Qualitative method is a method that collects data using conversation method. Participants are asked open-ended questions. The responses collected are essentially non-numerical. This method not only helps a researcher to understand what participants think, but also why they think in a particular way. There are some types of qualitative methods consist of the one-to-one interview, focus groups, ethnographic research, test analysis, and the last one is case study. One-to-one interview. It consists of it conducted with a one participant at a given point in a time. One-to-one interviews need a researcher to prepare questions in advance. The researcher asks only the most important questions to the participant. This type of interview lasts anywhere between 20 minutes to half an hour. During this time, the researcher collects as many meaningful answers as possible from the participant to draw interference. Second one is group focus. Focus groups are small groups comprising of around 6 to 10 participants who are usually experts in subject matter. A moderator is assigned to a focus group who facilitates the discussion among the group members. A moderator experience in conducting the focus group plays an important role. An experienced moderator can probe the participant by asking the correct questions that will help them to collect a sizable amount of information related to the research. Ethnographic research. It is an in-depth form of research where people are observed in their natural environment. Without this method is demanding due to the necessity of researcher entering a natural environment of other people. Geographic locations can be constrained as well. Instead of conducting interviews, a researcher experiences the normal setting and daily life of a group of people. Text analysis. It is a little different from other qualitative methods as it is used to analyze social constructs by decoding words through any available form of documentation. The researcher studies and understands the context in which the documents are written and then tries to draw meaningful inferences from it. The researchers today follow activities on a social media platform to try and understand pattern of thoughts. And the last one, the qualitative method is case study. Case study research is used to study an organization or an entity. This method is one of the most valuable options for modern. This type of research is used in fields like the education sector, philosophical studies, and psychological studies. This method involves a deep dive into ongoing research and collecting data. Next one is quantitative research method. Quantitative research method deal with numbers and measurable forms. It uses a systematic way of investigating events or data. It is used to answer questions in form of justifying relationship with measurable variables to either explain, predict, or control a phenomenon. There are three methods that are often used by the researcher. The first one is survey research, the second one is descriptive research, and the last one is correlation research. The first one is survey research. The ultimate goal of survey research is to learn about a large population by deploying a survey. Today, online surveys are popular as they are convenient and can be sent in an email or made available on the internet. In this method, a researcher designs a survey with the most relevant survey questions and distributes the survey. Once the researcher receives responses, they summarizes them to tabulate meaningful findings and data. Second one is descriptive research. Descriptive research is a method which identifies the characteristics of an observed phenomenon and collects more information. This method is designed to depict the participant in a very systematic and accurate manner. In simple words, descriptive research is all about describing the phenomenon, observing it, and drawing conclusions from it. And the last one is correlation research. Correlation research examines the relationship between two or more variables. Consider a researcher is studying a correlation between cancer and married women have a negative correlation with cancer. In this example, there are two variables, cancer and married women. When we say negative correlation, it means women who are married are less likely to develop cancer. However, it doesn't mean that marriage directly avoids cancer. In chapter number 6, research methodology, the third is sample. When you conduct research about a group of people, it's rarely possible to collect data from every person in that group. Instead, you select a sample. The sample is the group of individuals who will actually participate in the research. To draw valid conclusions from your results, you have to carefully decide how you will select a sample that is representative of group as a whole. There are two types of a sampling method. The first one is probability sampling and the second one is non-probability sampling. Probability sampling methods. Probability sampling means that every member of the population has a chance of being selected. It is mainly used in quantitative research. If you want to produce results that are representative of the whole population, you need to use a probability sampling technique. There are four main types of probability sampling techniques. The first one is simple random sampling. In a simple random sample, every member of the population has an equal chance of being selected. Your sampling frame should include the whole population. To conduct this type of sampling, you can use tools like random number generators or other techniques that are based on entirely on chance. The second one is systematic sampling. Systematic sampling is similar to simple random sampling, but it is usually slightly easier to conduct. Every member of the population is listed with a number, but instead of randomly generating numbers, individuals are chosen at regular intervals. Third one is stratified sampling. This sampling method is appropriate when the population has mixed characteristics and you want to ensure that every characteristic is proportionately represented in the sample. You divide the population into subgroups based on the relevant characteristics. For example, we can say in terms of your gender, age, range, income bracket, job role. From the overall proportions of the population, you calculate how many people should be sampled from each subgroup. Then you use random or systematic sampling to select a sample from each subgroup. And the last fourth one is cluster sampling. Cluster sampling also involves dividing the population into subgroups, but each subgroup should have similar characteristics to the whole sample. Instead of sampling individuals from each subgroup, you randomly select entire subgroup. If it is practically possible, you might include every individual from each sampled cluster. If the cluster themselves are large, you can also sample individuals from within each cluster using one of the techniques. This method is good for dealing with the large and dispersed populations, but there is more risk of error in the sample, as there could be substantial differences between clusters. It's difficult to guarantee that the sampled clusters are really representative of the whole population. Non-probability sampling method. In a non-probability sample, individuals are selected based on non-random criteria and not every individual has a chance of being included. This type of sample is easier and cheaper to access, but it has a higher risk of sampling bias and you can use it to make valid statistical inferences about the whole population. Non-probability sampling techniques are often appropriate for exploratory and qualitative research. In these types of research, the aim is not to test a hypothesis about a broad population, but to develop an initial understanding of a small or under-researched population. The first one is convenience sampling. It simply includes the individual who happens to be most accessible to the researcher. This is an easy and inexpensive way to gather initial data, but there is no way to tell if the sample is representative of the population, so it can't produce generalized result. The second one is voluntary response sampling. Similar to a convenience sample, a voluntary response sampling is mainly based on ease of access. Instead of the researcher choosing participants and directly contacting them, people volunteer themselves. Voluntary response samples are always at least somewhat biased, as some people will inherently be more likely to volunteer than others. And the third one is purposive sampling. This type of sampling involves the researcher using their judgment to select a sample that is more useful to the purpose of the research. The last one is snowball sampling. If the population is hard to access, snowball sampling can be used to recruit participants via other participants. The number of people you have access to snowballs as you get in contact with the more people. Then the sampling frame. The sampling frame is the actual list of individuals that the sample will be drawn from. Ideally, it should include the entire target population. And the next one is sample unit. The number of individuals in your sample depends on the unit of the population and on how precisely you want to result to represent the population as a whole. You can use a sample unit calculator or sample size calculator to determine how big your sample should be. In general, the larger the sample unit or size, the more accurately and confidently you can make inferences about the whole population. In chapter number 6, research methodology, the next point is data collection techniques. Let's see the first one. What is a data collection tool? Data collection tools refers to the devices or instruments used to collect data, such as a paper questionnaire or computerized assisted interviewing system. Case studies, checklists, interviews, observations, sometimes a survey or questionnaires are all tools used to collect data. It is important to decide the tools for data collection because research is carried out in different ways and for different purposes. The objective behind the data collection is to capture quality evidence that allows analysis to lead to the formulation of convincing and credible answers to the questions that have been posed. There are some data collections methods or techniques you can say. The first one is interview. An interview is a face-to-face conversation between two individuals with the sole purpose of collecting relevant information to satisfy a research purpose. Interview are of different types. You can say it is the first one is structured and the second one is unstructured type. Structured interview. You can say it in terms of a simple words. It is a verbally administered questionnaire. In terms of a depth, it is surface level and it is usually completed within a short period. For speed and efficiency, it is highly recommendable, but it lacks depth. And the second one is your semi-structured interview. In this method, there sub-assist several key questionnaires which cover the scope of the areas to be explored. It allows a little more leeway for the researcher to explore the subject matter. And the third one is unstructured interview. It is an in-depth interview that allows the researcher to collect a wider range of information with a purpose. An advantage of this method is the freedom it gives a researcher to combine structured with flexibility, even though it is more time consuming. The next technique is questionnaire. This is the process of collecting data through an instrument consisting of a series of questions and promotes the receive a response from the individual it is administered to. Questionnaires are designed to collect data from a group. For clarity, it is important to note that the questionnaire is not a survey. Rather, it forms a part of it. A survey is a process of data gathering involving a variety of data collection methods, including a questionnaire. On a questionnaire, there are three kinds of question based. They are fixed, alternative scale, open-ended, with each of the questionnaire tailored to the nature and scope of the research. The next one is reporting. By definition, data reporting is the process of gathering and submitting data to be further subjected to analysis. The key aspect of data reporting is reporting accurate data because of inaccurate data reporting leads to informed decision making. The next one is existing data. This is the introduction of new investigative questions in addition to than once originally used when the data was initially gathered. It involves adding measurement to study or research. The next technique is observation. This is the data collection method by which information on a phenomenon is gathered through observation. The nature of the observation could be accomplished either as a complete observer, an observer as a participant as an observer, or as a complete participant. This method is a key base of formulating a hypothesis. There are remaining also more methods to collect the data, but I discussed only a few, the five. The first one is interview, then questionnaire, then reporting, then existing data, and then Observation. There are some statistical tools and techniques used to analyze the data. The first one is mean, the second one is standard deviation, the third one is your regression, the fourth one is sample size determination, and the last one is hypothesis testing. I discussed only in short one by one. The first one is mean. The arithmetic mean are more commonly known as average. It is the sum of the list of numbers divided by the number of items on the list. The mean is useful in determining the overall trend of the data or providing a rapid snapshot of your data. Another advantage of the mean is that it's very easy and quick to calculate. The second one is standard deviation. The standard deviation, often represented with a Greek letter sigma. This standard deviation is denoted by a letter sigma. It is the measure of spread of data around the mean. A high standard deviation signifies that data is spread more widely from the mean, where a low standard deviation signals that more data align with the mean. The next one is regression. Regression models the relationship between dependent and explanatory variables, which are usually charted on a scatter plot. The regression line also designates whether those relationships are strong or weak. Regression analysis is commonly taught in high school or college statistics courses with applications for science or business in determining trends over time. Then the next one is sample size determination. When measuring a large data set or population, like workflows, you don't always need to collect information from every member of that population. A sample does the job just as well. The trick is to determine the right size of the sample to be accurate. Using proportion and standard deviation methods, you are able to accurately determine the right sample size you need to make your data collection statistically significant. And the last one is hypothesis testing, also commonly called the t-testing. Hypothesis testing assesses if a certain premises is actually true for your dataset or population. In data analysis and statistics, to consider the result of hypothesis test statistically significant if the result could not have happened by random chance. Hypothesis testing are used in everything from the science and research to business and economics. And in chapter number 6, research and methodology, the last point is limitations. Limitations is the researchers has some limitations from collecting all data or analyzing the data. Is there any limitations? Then researcher must have to write down these limitations. Chapter number 8, observations and findings. In this chapter, the researcher or the projector must have to write down the main findings of the project or the research. You have to write down all your inferences and test of a hypothesis. Chapter number 9, conclusion. Conclusion. This is the brief summing up of the entire project, preferably with positive attitude. Researcher must have to conclude in a single page what is the problem and what is your suggestion on the particular problem and how to solve and what are the impact after the solving the problem. Chapter number 10, suggestions and recommendation. This chapter includes the suggestions. You must have to write down only the major suggestions. That means you also know the 90% problems solved by only the 10% of the solution. Okay. Based on this strategy, you must have to write down only the major suggestions. It should be based on your research, insight you have to develop. Use your knowledge, the research you have done, and insight you gained. You must have to write down these recommendations only.